Hello, I'm Simon and welcome back to the Bookster podcast from inside the SaaS holiday rental software company Bookster, based in Edinburgh, Scotland. Follow along as Bookster discuss their journey and their inner workings. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you find these conversations insightful and ultimately helpful. Now, I'm joined today, as always, by CEO and co-founder of Bookster, Robin Morris. Robin, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, Simon. How's yourself?
Good, very well, thank you. Thanks for your time again today.
No problem. I struggled through the rain this morning and made it into the office.
It's a classic Scottish summer day.
It was Gaidry.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it's the middle of June.
Yeah.
And obviously a big day today with the football starting tonight, Robin, so you'll be glued to that, I'm sure, as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So now we've pegged this in time, this podcast recording.
That's true.
Yeah. But that's good. That's good. I'm excited and nervous. And
well, dare we ask for a prediction then, since we're talking about it, a prediction for tonight's match?
Well, if the Germans can beat Brazil 7-1, I don't know what they could do to Scotland. But I don't know. I'll be optimistic. I think 1-1.
1-1, right? Yeah. Okay.
1-1.
Well, at some point later on in the series, we'll come back to this and we'll see if you're right or not. So, right, 1-1. Let's move on. So today we're going to talk about sort of the history again of Bookster and how you've got to be where you are. We have touched on this, I think, in earlier episodes, but it's good to maybe explore it a little bit further and talk about the process and your thinking behind doing everything. Obviously, we know from previous episodes that you started as a sort of maybe a more general company, doing sort of more general things for clients. So perhaps just for listeners who maybe have forgotten, perhaps a quick overview of what you did do before Bookster became Bookster, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So we formed our company kind of off the back of another company being sold. But when we formed it in 2007, Bookster didn't exist. So it wasn't a thing. We formed it, and essentially at that point, we had some software that was a content management system for the web that we'd written. So for sort of directories of things, listing things and searching things on a website, whether that was suppliers of products or campsites and caravan parks or properties, holiday properties, or lists of members of membership organizations. Kind of very broad, but a content management system that had all sorts of functionality, allowed people to log in and update their content, etc. So we had clients in the events industry. We had we also had something that allowed people to book things. I suppose that's relatively important. So we had clients in the events industry, clients in the theatre industry. We had clients in publishing. So publishers used our content management system. We had clients, what else? We had clients in MotoGP, racing. Who else? We had all sorts, basically. And essentially, we made most of our money really through contracts with clients to do work mainly, and it was sort of hourly work. So they would pay us to manipulate or update our platform or make changes to their website, and we would quote for work and charge for it. That was mostly how we were making our money.
Right. And I guess that's probably the way a lot of web companies start, perhaps, in doing that and getting a foot in the door.
Yeah, so I think most web agencies, you might call them, so people who build websites for people, that's how they operate. They might build WordPress websites, say, and they charge a one-off fee or hourly fees for building the website. They may be involved in hosting them, and they can charge a little bit for that, but they're essentially mostly charging for their hourly work. Or they might be, we were sort of contractors to some extent. We were building new bits of software for people based on their specifications to some extent. They said, this is how we want it to work. And we would, we'd have an input, obviously, but mainly it was kind of very heavily led by the client in terms of what they wanted. So yes, that there are lots and lots of people in that state where that's what they do. There's their business model. Mm-hmm. They charge people for their services, basically, in that way, whether it's web agency or software developers, or contracting software developers, etc. Yeah, so that's really what we were doing.
And I mean, how long did you do that for then?
So we did that, just doing that really for a couple of years. Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't like we stopped doing it immediately. It was a kind of phase out. So, Bookster came about as an idea at the end of 2008, roughly. And our idea for that was, and I think that we did this because, like lots of other people, we wanted to be able to build something that we could sell as a software product, really, as a software service. We had this idea of a book now button for your holiday rental website. You could pay us a monthly fee and set your property up and allow you to take direct bookings on your website. That was the point of it. And it would be software as a service. And so we started out with no clients, and slowly but surely we had one or two clients, but still vast majority of our business was paid piecemeal or hourly work. We were really continuing to do that for a good 7-8 years, definitely. I mean, we still do some work like that, but it's not where we make most of our money.
Right. So I'm interested. I mean, we'll talk about this further. I'm going to go back a step though. I'm interested. You've mentioned a few podcasts before this. It's just about this idea of having this book now button. I mean, it sounds like when you say it's kind of a revolutionary idea that changes the course of the company and everything. I mean, book now button is not an original idea, I'm guessing, but it obviously was important enough to change your way of working.
So this is it's very difficult to put yourself in that position in 2007, but virtually nobody took instant direct bookings for holiday rentals in 2007.
Oh, right, okay.
It was very, very rare.
Right, okay.
So this is, people will forget what state things were in, I suppose, in different times. But if you bear in mind, I don't know when Airbnb was formed, but Airbnb, 2012 maybe, something like that. And that, websites like holidaylettings.co.uk or HomeAway or any of these businesses, they were all sending inquiries. So you would send an inquiry to your holiday letting person, owner, or company, and they would come back, and most of the exchange would be done over email. Taking direct bookings, allowing someone to put their card in and book a holiday rental, was actually very, very rare. Some of the larger companies might be doing it, but certainly as an individual property owner, it was very difficult. So in terms of being early and seeing that, we were very early, actually. So we were definitely ahead of the curve, I suppose. And I mean, it was obviously what was going to happen, but there weren't that many other people, doing that. And
Was that? Sorry.
I was going to say, certainly with our sort of previous business, so the reason we had this capacity to take online booking was that in our previous business with Caravan Site Finder, which we had, I was involved with from 2002 maybe or 2001 to 2007, and we were trying to get online booking up and running, and it was, to get holiday parks or caravan parks to do that was really, really tough.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, I mean, how easy was it then to get clients to either stick with you or change their approach to this new idea that you approached them with?
I mean, I think everyone could see. So although we were ahead of the curve, probably in terms of presenting them with something that they could use, I think a lot of people knew that that's what they should be doing, or that ultimately it will be like that. It's kind of a little bit like where electric cars are now, or maybe were a couple of years ago. Everyone sort of knows that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But they really they'll kind of stick in their own ways, taking emails and whatever, and they'll come up with their own. So it was hard, is the answer to that question. But the usual objections were around vetting guests. Really, the first one that was the first objection. It's like, oh well, I actually, my holiday home is special, and I don't just let anyone stay in it. So I have to vet people, and some people I don't let in. So, and it's usually, around stag do's or hen parties and things like that. That's what they're looking to avoid.
Sure.
So yeah, vetting. The second one is around double booking. So they don't want, they basically, it's logging in and making sure your availability is up to date, so you don't get a double booking. It's the main problem. But I would say the number one objection was around, it was around vetting of guests.
Right. But you clearly, obviously, got people interested, and you're now living the dream, as they say.
Yeah. So I suppose, slowly we got people. We got enough interest. We were kind of subsidizing it really to a large extent. It existed as one of the things we were doing, so we could slowly improve it over time, add some features and functionality, so we could broaden its appeal to more people, more holiday rental owners, and allow them to. There's all sorts of features and functions that we added, and maybe got a bit better at marketing it as well, I suppose, getting it out there. Up until I don't know, 2019, we didn't actually have any marketing or sales or anything on it. In fact, until 2020, we had zero sales. So no salesperson, no one whose job it was to sell it or try and sell it.
Right.
So
there was no Johnny.
There was no Johnny. Johnny did not exist.
And we've met Johnny already, so people know who Johnny is, so that's fine. And we'll have Johnny back again soon. Well. And he does the music for this podcast, exactly, yeah, and available for all sorts of musical jobs, I'm sure. You want to hire him for something. So you've now gone from being a sort of general company doing generalized, I guess, web activity to a company that has a specific product, which is Bookster, I guess. And you've got some in that process. When you went back to clients with the product, for example, did you lose some clients because of that, or did you manage to keep hold of the clients that you had, and just did they adapt to your new way of working?
Yeah. So I suppose because we didn't have so we weren't funded. We were all organically funded, or whatever, bootstrapped, whatever you call it. This process took quite a long time, and so we did naturally shed some of the clients that were using our more general products. So as we built up Bookster in that niche, as it were, we did, some contracts came to an end naturally. There were some, and it took a lot. It was kind of evolved over time. So we were, I suppose if this is something you are looking to do in your company, if you're listening to this, we did it over a long period of time, and so that's might not be how you want to do it. You might want to get to the end state quicker, but we did it over a long time. Now, there were some clients that we effectively fired. We told them to go and look elsewhere for services. We gave them notice and said, we don't think that you're a good fit for where we're going, and we don't think we can provide you with a great service into the future. And there's one particular client that was quite large that we did pretty much told to leave because it was too much of a distraction from Bookster, and they were taking us in directions that we, didn't want to go. And I suppose that actually, if you are wanting to get to have a product and to have, a software service more quickly, you do need to be able to say no to people quite a lot. Yeah.
I mean, hearing that, that must have been quite a moment for you and for Bookster, I guess, to have to actually get rid of a big client like that. It must be a bit of a scary moment.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And it is still quite difficult to say no to people who are offering you money to do certain things, either to take Bookster in a certain direction or add certain functionality. Unless it's something that we already wanted to do, or we can really see how it would really benefit Bookster, you kind of have to say no to people. And that's what's quite tricky when you've made that decision to, right, okay, we're going to try and take the company in a direction where we ultimately have this product that we're going to try and make stand on its own feet. You can't spend time building software that's just totally for one particular client, even though they're paying you, and it might seem like they're paying you a reasonable amount of money for it, because it distracts you from building the product, but it also creates a bunch of software you have to maintain and look after into the future, which sucks up resources. So yeah, it is quite difficult.
So your product now then is very much Bookster led rather than client led. I mean, you tell them in a sense what you're doing, and either get on board or not, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's so. It's obviously the right way to say this. If you're a client listening to this podcast, it's not that we don't listen to clients and make Bookster better for our clients based on their feedback. That is definitely a big part of trying to make it better. Is people will tell you when it's really wrong, or they might come up with really great ideas. But that's quite different from a client leading a specific development or a function, or paying you specifically to do something. It is quite I mean, not, it's like never say never. If someone said, oh, here's lots and lots and lots of money, will he build it to do this? Then it's going to be difficult to say no to that. You might say yes and say, right, okay, we'll take that hit because it
Sure.
allows us to do all sorts of things. But you have to be, if it's just a case of them paying your normal hourly rate or something, or not paying you that much, it's being able to say, look, essentially, if we're doing this work over here, what we're not doing is something over there. The thing over there benefits all of our users. This over here only benefits a couple of our users. They are paying us for it, but so how do you say no to them in a nice way, or say, look, we might get around to that later, but we just can't do it. So yeah, it's that. You're right. It's from having projects that are client led to having a product that is client responsive, maybe, rather than client led.
Okay. But I mean, I think that's, and for anyone listening who are your clients, I guess, and potential clients, I think that from an outsider's point of view, sounds like you're a company that will then focus on the product rather than, you want to make the product the best it can be rather than just doing things for, a bit of money here and there. You're actually, Bookster is always going to be the best product that you can come up with because you're focused on what you want to do rather than being distracted, like you say, by other clients saying, oh, can we just add this in? Can we just add this in? And it becomes something that it's not your vision, I guess. So it's nice to hear, or good to hear, that Bookster is quite focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope people think that. And the sort of two things that feed into that as well is that our clients, it's important that they buy into what our sort of philosophy generally. So you come up with a general philosophy, and we talked about this in the first few podcasts, but they have to buy into what you're doing, and perhaps they might have to shift a bit of how they're operating in order for it to work for them. But if they buy into it, that's great. But yeah, the other thing is that when we're building anything, and this actually goes back to right at the start as well, is that you're not going to make software that everybody likes. And I think accepting that at the start of whatever software product you're doing is quite important, that you're not going to build stuff for everyone. And even the biggest software companies in the world, you could say Apple or Google or Microsoft, you always speak to people who are like, I hate Apple, or I hate Google, or I'd really never use Microsoft stuff. Now they're massive. They've got massive, broad user bases, but you're always going to rub someone up the wrong way with the way that you do something because you're doing it your way. And even though the software, Apple, Google, Microsoft, whatever, they have mass appeal, so they're doing things that, or the types of products that they're building have the potential to appeal to lots of people, which we're not really. We're building something that's relatively niche. But even within that niche, we have to accept that there's some people that we're going to probably rub up the wrong way because of the way that we work. And it's not that they don't like us personally. It's just the way we've written our software, they won't like it because they prefer something that looks a bit different or operates in a different way or works on their device better or, whatever that may be. But as long as as you say, we're building something that we think works for a whole bunch of people, works for the people that think that in our niche, then we can slowly get our own client base, user base, and expand from there. And they'll tell their friends. We just slowly, organically build ourselves up. That's the plan, basically, and that's how yeah, I would say if you're starting out and you don't have a product and you're thinking about building one of the things to think about is not everyone is going to like the way that you work. So don't try to make it appeal to everybody, and don't be offended when someone says, "Oh, I'm not actually a big fan of your software. I don't really like how it works."
Sure.
You have to listen, but you also have to accept that that's a possibility.
Yeah, you're not going to please everybody all the time in anything you do. So I think that's a good lesson to put out there. I guess we're just conscious of time. Maybe one last question for this podcast, Robin, is you talked about your process of going from, general to sort of specific. If you were to do it all again, would you have started with a specific product to start with, or have you enjoyed the process of where you've gone and where you are now, or would you do it differently?
It would be nice to have a product that worked more quickly, that we could get a user base more quickly. I think we've been quite slow in getting a user base up and running. And it's perhaps because we had lots of these other things, so we weren't forced to get a user base going. And so I think if we were to do it all again, might force ourselves to go down the product road a little bit quicker and try and maybe be a little bit more. So when you are taking on these bigger projects, also make sure that you've also got something set aside to continue to build your product that you really want. I don't think I would go down and this is maybe a conversation for another podcast, don't think I would go down the raising money from investors and literally it being the only thing we're doing. And if it doesn't work, it's going to explode and disappear. I don't think I would go down that road, but that would mainly be because investors would have they'd be your boss basically, and that it's nice not to have that.
But, for sure. Yeah.
But in terms of transitioning, I might have done it a bit quicker.
Okay, but I guess the route you've taken has got you to where you are now, and you're providing a good product for a good amount of people. So no, I guess everything has its pros and cons. But no, it's just interesting to hear your thoughts, and for anyone listening, should they go into a market with a product, or should they spend some time developing other things as well? I suppose it's different for everyone, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. Well, look, it's almost 30 minutes of this podcast, so we've chatted for a while today. So thank you for that. It's been interesting to hear about the process a bit more involved than we've done in the past. So that's a good episode there, I think. If anyone had any questions on what they've heard today or any of the other previous podcasts, do remember you can send them in to podcast@booksterhq.com. That's podcast@booksterhq.com. We've also got our sister podcast, which is Smashing Your Holiday Rental Goals. That's hosted by Kelly, who was on our podcast, or is going to be on our podcast, depending on which order you listen to these podcasts in. But you'll hear her or will have heard her. Anyway, so I'd recommend going to listen to that podcast as well and leave a favourable review on that one, please. And also this podcast, if you can, as well. Robin, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
And we shall meet again soon and see if your predictions for the football was correct or not.
What's your prediction?
My prediction. Okay. Well, my prediction then, I'll say it's probably going to be 2-1 to Germany.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I'm afraid. But anyway, one of us will be right or whatever. Right. Okay. In that case, thank you again. Thank you for listening, and we'll see or speak to you all very soon, and take care till then. Bye-bye.
Bye.